So let's turn it over to you. Questions, observations? Yeah, for sure. Let's start over here. Do we need microphones? Probably not, right? Unless are you recording or not? Okay, yeah. Start with yourself, ma'am, and then.
Hello, I'm Charlotte Dufour.
You'll need to really shout though.
I'm Charlotte Dufour from the FAO Nutrition Division. I'd just like to share a couple of experiences. And the first is about how we take for granted that we all understand what each sector is talking about. And we work increasingly on joint programs now. And I remember sitting in this workshop where the health people talked about, given the high level of GAMS, we should implement CMAM and improve EBF rates and IYCF practices. The agriculture people were like this. And then the agriculture people said, we need to start working with FOs and ag co-ops and credit schemes. And the health people were like, what? And when agriculture people talk about vulnerability, we think poor farmers or urban poor. And when a doctor thinks vulnerability, he thinks of a breastfeeding woman or a child under 5. And I think we completely forget we don't have the same language. And that is often the step one we fail to do. And another thought on another issue is I see in the West the power of the consumer organizations who are influencing the way agriculture is done. We have more and more health-conscious, environment-conscious consumers. And that is changing the demand and changing some of the way agriculture is done. And I wonder to what extent we can start looking at that as an avenue also in other countries. Thank you.
Maybe that's a question maybe the panel can come back to. This question of the consumer-driven process. Sure. And right in front of you, sir, please. Now we have a microphone, because that was my fault, I didn't alert folks with that.
Hello, myself Shashidhar, I'm from Indira Gandhi National Open University. I have an experience to share with you. My experience is closely related with what Mr. Michael described. We have implemented a radio farm school program. Yeah, we have implemented a radio farm school program to bring about the awareness and changing the attitude and the knowledge of the poultry farmers in the areas of poultry farming, then poultry nutrition and poultry health. Then what we found was radio we can use as a what you call a promising case, as well as an instrument to reach the large sections of the farmers. In India we are reaching about 99% of geographical area as well as 99% of the population. So in the world, global level, we have around 44,000 radio stations. So we can use radio as a promising case to reach to the people, to bring about awareness about these three issues of agriculture, nutrition and health.
So for you, radio is still the key?
Yeah.
Okay, Matt. By the way, just panelists, note down any points you wish to come back to. I'll come back to you in a few minutes. So. And the microphone's on its way. You can all hum your song while you wait.
My name is Analati from the University of Ghana. I think that this whole issue of bringing agriculture, nutrition and health together, the level at which we are doing it is like we are teaching an old dog new tricks. I think this should have been done way back, and this should have been at the pre-surveyed level when we are training these professionals. Doctors, nurses should have nutrition and agriculture linkages in their program. They should understand that we work together that way. Nutritionists should also have some agriculture, etc., etc., so that when that man becomes the Minister of Health, and you go to him and tell him that in your program, put in a little bit of nutrition, a little bit of health. You know, it's not too difficult because already that concept is there. So I think that we should probably be stepping back and looking at the training that we give to these professionals that will come on to take on these positions right at that level. Not
you
at
would
this
start
level.
with training and build it up from there. Let me just, yes ma'am, please.
Thank you very much. This is for Mike about radio communication and also for Adelaide. From Michael, you mentioned about you have programs that address imports, markets, policies, and all those kind of things. But it seems that the focus here is to increase production. And I assume you are also assuming that, you know, once production is increased, then there will be consumption out there. But more often, that does not happen. So I would imagine that in your programs, I think you need also to increase this, to include programs about nutrition as well. You didn't mention this, so I thought perhaps in your programs, nutrition can be brought in so that people can know what to produce, what to consume, how to consume it, because this is the major problem we see in rural communities, that they produce but they do not consume the foods that they produce.
Sorry, where are you from?
I'm from Tanzania. Sorry, Jessica, I'm from Tanzania. Yes,
close.
yeah. And then I'd like to share with you one experience. We tried a radio program one time on nutrition, of course, not agriculture, linking the three. And then we offered our phone numbers so that people can call in to inquire further about the issues that they want clarification. And we were overwhelmed. Even in the middle of the night, people would call to ask questions about issues that they wanted clarification. So I think this also the beauty of communication and the technology that we have, the mobile phones, because they could just use their phones to get more information about various issues on nutrition, agriculture, and health. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll come back to the technology. Please just note these questions at the moment and I'll come back to you. I've got my back to people. Any questions from over this side of the room? Moving. Oh, yep.
Sure. My name is Kapil and I come from Ethiopia. The question which I want to ask is that, you have stressed about technology, but if you take the context of Ethiopia and some other countries, it's not only agriculture, but it's the social and behavioral change which is more important. Do you have any examples where technology is not available and you need to make social and behavioral change, especially to make sure that the intergeneration nutrition cycle breaks and people take complementary food, the breastfeeding is increases, and all those kinds of examples?
Okay. Yes, sir. Oh, before you go, because you've got the microphone.
Examples where technology
You'll be next.
is not available.
Thank you. Robin Anderson with the Farming First Coalition, which includes 112 national farmers organizations, as well as business and industry, NGOs, scientists, and engineers. One of the things that we're talking about in this context is how to look at best practice for farmers, including things like crop rotation that break this starch-only practice, which is good for nutrition as well as for farming. But in terms of communication, I think another interesting point is we've got about half of the world's poor who are actually themselves farmers. And to what extent can we use the discussions about extension services on best practice to also reach out to those farmers with nutrition information so that they are both the target audience as consumers of better health and better nutrition, as well as the providers of the raw product?
I'm going to take a couple more and then panel, you're on notice, I'm coming back to you. Over these far side there.
I'm Dr. Barbarwa from Assam, eastern state of India. I'd just like to highlight the issue of regional language communication.
Regional language.
Particularly, most of the poor, they can't speak English. The issue here, actually, I would like to share with you. We had a work communication program with the International Livestock Research Institute. We tried to translate some of the manuals into regional languages for communicating to the farmers. We really come across a lot of problems in terms of finding the suitable word. There are a lot of jargons in dealing with health, nutrition, agriculture, but when it comes to finding out the appropriate word which farmer can understand in a short, that's a very critical issue. And I think there is no, I'm searching a lot for some organization who can help civil society organization like the group I am representing, who can help us to improve the vocabulary of regional languages and right kind of word. Suppose I was looking for the meaning of a simple word to explain livelihood.
To explain livelihood.
Livelihood.
Okay.
So it's very difficult for my team to find out. So we had a tough time in doing the work in translating the things into the regional language. I think this is something which you need to focus on. Microsoft is doing for digital part of improvement in languages, but how best the communication that we develop in English, how can it be taken to the regional platform?
Just a quick survey. For those of you for whom English is not your first language, put up your hands if the word livelihood is easily translated into your language. And now put up your hands if livelihood is not easily translated into your language. Wow, those living, yeah, that's interesting, huh? Adelaide and I have spent probably a decade trying to define convivencia in English. It's the same kind of thing. So, just behind you, sorry. And coming from your left.
Thank you. Ramesh Adhikari from Nepal. I have one question. JJ, you mentioned about creating a platform and mechanism of... I'm a little bit worried about the mechanism of interaction between different professionals. Like agriculture people think this is the only answer, this is the right way to go. Health people don't agree with that. And rather than fighting over that issue, they would like to stay in their own areas. So what is the process? Is there a role for a coordinator, somebody who oversees? Okay, you keep quiet for some time, listen to other person's perspective and think things like that. And another one is dealing with media people. They are interested in controversial issues. They'll call you in the middle of the night or something like that and they'll say, don't you think that this food is bad? They already have the answer and they want your name. How to deal with that?
So the last one before we go back to the panel. So just in front, so we'll make the transcript. And then the panel will be quick, and then we'll come back to others.
Kojo Asensu, IFPRI. Klaus was saying that we should...
Is it a staff meeting now, or? Sorry, sir, go ahead.
Klaus was saying that we should send the research results to those who need them. What about the other way around? Why don't we find out what the people need before we even begin the research, so that the results can be used?
Thank you. All right, let's do this in the same order that we did the presentations. You do not need to address every point, but just pick up a couple of things that struck you. JJ. Please. It's not on. Microphone. On the stage, on the clip.
Okay, thank you. I want to respond starting with the latest regarding how to manage the platforms. If I take an example of what we have done in Uganda, we have the media center with a person with communication strategies that manage and help to bring the stakeholders on board periodically to exchange views. And then what is being worked on now is to have coordinators at regional right to the grassroots level that can bring the replica of stakeholders. Because at the grassroots, let us take it, if we talk of the district level or the regional level, over there we have got the same replica of the stakeholders, the government official, the farmers, the civil society organization, the private sectors, the academia. Now, those needs to have a coordinator, and I would agree with you, we need to have coordinators who can manage that, who can bring these people periodically to exchange views. And that is the way to help bring out useful information that are generated by different stakeholders on board. Gain confidence, because that is the most important thing. If you don't build and gain the trust and confidence of the various stakeholders, and as it has been stated, you find the Ministry of Health people, the professionals there, they have got their own language. The agriculture, they have got their own language. And then the nutritionists, they have got their own language. They need a communication skills. And that refers to another question that has been mentioned. Unless we have people with communication skills to help translate this jargon, it is a problem. I know one time my own president brought down researchers and they were talking about germplasm, you know. Then he said, now these are very well. I'm, as a politician, when I go out to the countryside, they want a simple meaning of what germplasm is all about. Can you tell me? All of them were dead silence. They are experts, good researchers, you know? And eventually, he turned back to me and said, JJ, what do you say? I said, as far as I'm concerned, germplasm is talking about the seed of life. He said, that. And then he asked them, I don't want my advisor to take me for a ride. Do you agree, you scientists? And they say, yeah. I said, why did you not tell me before then? So there is always the issue of communication skills. And that one is so important. Whether you are talking about livelihoods and what have you, this jargon can best be translated by people who are in that. I just want to make that contribution.
That's great. Rhino, just...
Yeah, I also wanted to build on the coalition. I think, for example, if we could take a leadership in setting up such a coalition with a new vision for agriculture and nutrition and health, but there are also existing platforms which could be further evolved. I mean, the Sustainability Consortium, which has all the players involved here, or there is the Vision for New Agriculture at the World Economic Forum that has all involved. So it exists. Someone needs to take the leadership and move that forward. So I think it can be done if the will is there. I want to make that. Another interesting question I wanted to come back to is the question between agriculture and consumers. I think this is really important. Agriculture farmers are in rural areas, consumers are often in urban areas. The affluent consumer of the industrialized nations has more and more expectations when it comes to nutrition and when it comes to health. Expectations that go beyond everything that previously was there, and they can afford it, and they are driving this. And if farmers will have to meet those changing needs, they need to be supported in that change. They need to understand it, they need to change their practices, and this is not something that just comes overnight. This is a very deep and relevant change process. So in order to do that, it needs a very strong initiative to do it.